discover the surprising reason that made this cat protect the baby with claws and teeth, intriguing his parents. Before watching this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more animal stories. The morning sun gently penetrated through the curtains of Ethan's room, illuminating the serene face of the 6-month-old baby sleeping in his crib. Sarah, his mother, watched him with a mix of love and apprehension. She knew that this was the last day before returning to work, and anxiety was growing in her chest. "Are you sure you're ready to go back?" asked Michael, her husband, entering the room and embracing her from behind. Sarah sighed, leaning back against him. "I don't know, Mike. It's so hard to leave him." Michael kissed her forehead affectionately. "I know, love, but remember, we found the perfect nanny. Linda has great references and seemed to adore Ethan." At that moment, a soft meow caught the couple's attention. Bella, the family's Siamese cat, entered the room with her elegant walk and jumped into the crib, snuggling up next to Ethan. Sarah smiled. "At least we know Bella will keep an eye on him." The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of activities. Sarah reviewed the instructions for Linda for the 1,000th time, while Michael organized the last details for his wife's return to the architecture firm where they both worked. At night, after Ethan fell asleep, the couple sat on the balcony of the apartment watching the lights of New York City. Bella rested on Sarah's lap, purring softly. "You know," Sarah began, stroking the cat, "sometimes I think Bella understands everything that happens around her. Look how she got closer to Ethan since he was born." Michael laughed. "She's smart, yes, but don't exaggerate, Sarah. It's just her protective instinct." The next morning, the nervousness was palpable. Linda arrived punctually at 7:30 a.m. with a warm smile and a backpack on her back. "Good morning, Sarah." "Good morning, Michael. Where's our little prince?" she asked cheerfully. Sarah guided her to Ethan's room, detailing the baby's routine. Bella watched everything from the top of the dresser, her blue eyes fixed on the new person in her territory. When Linda approached the crib to pick up Ethan, something unexpected happened. Bella jumped from the dresser, placing herself between the nanny and the baby, hissing threateningly. "Bella!" exclaimed Sarah, surprised. "Sorry, Linda." "She's never done this before." Linda took a step back, visibly disturbed. "It's okay, it must be just her protective instinct. I'm sure we'll get used to each other soon." Michael entered the room, attracted by the noise. "Is everything okay here?" Sarah quickly explained what had happened while picking up Bella to calm her down. The cat, however, kept her eyes fixed on Linda, her ears back in a clear demonstration of distrust. "Sorry about that, Linda," said Michael. "Bella is usually very docile. It must be just the stress of the change in routine." Linda nodded, but her smile seemed a little forced. "Sure, I understand. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll be great friends soon, right, Bella?" She reached out to pet the cat, but Bella dodged, jumping from Sarah's lap and quickly leaving the room. The couple exchanged worried looks, but there was no time to discuss the matter. They needed to leave for work. "Anything, just call us," said Sarah, kissing Ethan's forehead. "All the numbers are on the fridge." "Don't worry," replied Linda, picking up Ethan. "We'll have a lot of fun, won't we, little one?" As Sarah and Michael left, they both noticed Bella sitting in the hallway, intensely watching the door to Ethan's room. There was something in her gaze that seemed almost human. In the elevator, Sarah couldn't contain her worry. "Mike, didn't you think Bella's behavior was strange?" Michael hesitated for a moment. "It was unusual, yes, but it must be just jealousy. Remember how she was when we brought Ethan home? Give her time." Sarah nodded, but an uncomfortable feeling remained in her chest as they headed to work. Something told her that there was more to the situation than it appeared, and she couldn't ignore the maternal instinct screaming inside her. The day at the office passed slowly, with Sarah constantly checking her phone for messages from Linda. The updates were brief and reassuring, but they couldn't completely calm her anxiety. Meanwhile, at home, a peculiar dynamic developed between Linda, Ethan, and Bella. The cat refused to leave the baby's side, watching every move of the nanny with an almost supernatural intensity. As the sun began to set, Sarah and Michael returned home, eager to see their son and hear how the first day with the new nanny had gone. Little did they know they were about to dive into a web of mysteries and revelations that would forever change the course of their lives. Days turned into weeks, and the routine in the Smith family home began to settle. Sarah and Michael took turns arriving home early, eager to spend time with Ethan. However, a subtle tension lingered in the air, fueled by Bella's increasingly strange behavior. One sunny Thursday afternoon, Sarah arrived home earlier than usual. Upon opening the door, she was greeted by an unusual silence. Usually, at that hour, Ethan would be babbling happily, or Linda would be singing to him. "Linda! Ethan!" called Sarah, feeling a tightness in her chest. An urgent meow came from the baby's room. Sarah ran, her heart racing. Upon opening the door, she found Bella frantically scratching the closed window. Ethan was in his crib, crying softly, his face red from crying so much. "My love!" exclaimed Sarah, picking up her son. "Where's Linda?" As if in response to the question, the sound of a toilet flushing came from the adjacent bathroom. Seconds later, Linda emerged, looking surprised to see Sarah. "Oh, Mrs. Smith. I didn't hear you come in," she said, a quick smile crossing her face. "Ethan was sleeping and I took the opportunity to use the bathroom quickly." Sarah frowned. "But he's crying." Linda seemed genuinely confused. "Really? I swear he was sleeping when I left him. He must have just woken up." Bella, who had been scratching the window, jumped to the floor and positioned herself between Sarah and Linda, her fur bristling. "Has Bella been acting like this the whole time?" asked Sarah, noticing the cat's defensive posture. Linda sighed. "Unfortunately, yes. I don't know what I did for her not to like me. I even tried giving her treats, but she refuses." Sarah shook her head, confused. Bella had always been a docile and friendly cat. This behavior was completely out of the ordinary. That night, after Linda left and Ethan was asleep, Sarah shared her concerns with Michael. "Mike, don't you think it's strange? Bella has never acted like this before." Michael pondered for a moment. "It's unusual, yes. But Linda has been taking good care of Ethan, hasn't she? He always seems happy and healthy when we get home." "Yes, but—" Sarah hesitated. "Today, when I came home, Ethan was crying. Linda said he had just woken up, but he seemed to have been crying for a while." Michael frowned. "Maybe she didn't hear because she was in the bathroom." "We can't judge by one isolated incident, Sarah." Sarah nodded, but the feeling of discomfort persisted. "I think we should pay more attention. Something isn't right." In the following days, both Sarah and Michael began to observe more closely. They noticed small inconsistencies in Linda's stories about Ethan's day. Sometimes she said he had eaten well, but the amount of food in the jar didn't match. Other times she claimed he had napped all afternoon, but the baby's eyes were red from tiredness. Bella, for her part, became increasingly protective. She hardly left Ethan's side, watching Linda with attentive and distrustful eyes. Once, when Linda was changing Ethan's diaper, Bella jumped on the counter and stood between her and the baby, refusing to move. "This cat is becoming impossible," exclaimed Linda, clearly frustrated. Sarah, who was home that day, quickly intervened. "Let me do it, Linda. Why don't you go prepare Ethan's bottle?" While changing her son, Sarah noticed something strange. There was a small red mark on Ethan's arm, as if someone had squeezed him hard. Her heart raced. "Ethan, my love, what happened?" she whispered, kissing the spot gently. Bella, who was by her side, meowed softly, as if trying to say something. Sarah looked at the cat, an idea beginning to form in her mind. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, Sarah confronted Michael. "Mike, we need to do something. I found a mark on Ethan's arm today. It looked like someone had held him too tightly." Michael paled. "You think that—" Sarah took a deep breath. "I don't want to accuse anyone without proof, but I'm getting more worried every day. What if Bella is trying to tell us something?" Michael ran his hand through his hair, visibly disturbed. "What do you suggest?" After a moment of reflection, Sarah spoke. "I think we should install cameras, not to invade Linda's privacy, but for Ethan's safety." Michael reluctantly agreed. "All right, we'll do it, but keep it a secret for now. We don't want to alarm Linda if we're wrong." The next day, while Linda took Ethan for a walk in the park, the couple discreetly installed cameras in the baby's room and living room. The decision weighed on their consciences, but Ethan's well-being was the priority. As the week progressed, the tension in the house increased. Bella continued her tireless vigil. Linda seemed increasingly irritated with the cat, and Sarah and Michael anxiously awaited the moment to review the recordings. Little did they know that the images captured by the cameras would reveal secrets that would change their lives forever, triggering a series of events that would test the limits of love, trust, and family protection. The weekend arrived, bringing a mix of relief and apprehension for Sarah and Michael. With Linda off, they would have the opportunity to review the camera recordings, but the fear of what they might discover weighed heavily on their hearts. Saturday morning, with Ethan still asleep, the couple sat in the living room, laptop open between them. Bella, as if sensing the importance of the moment, settled next to them on the couch. "Ready?" asked Michael, his finger hovering over the play button. Sarah nodded, holding her husband's hand. "Let's do this." The first few hours of recording seemed normal. Linda fed Ethan, changed his diapers, and put him to sleep. However, as they progressed, small details began to catch their attention. "Look there," pointed Sarah, leaning forward. On the screen, Linda was in Ethan's room, apparently searching through the drawers, while the baby cried in the crib. Michael frowned. "Why is she rummaging through our things?" They continued watching, the tension mounting with each passing minute. In a particularly disturbing scene, they saw Linda holding Ethan with excessive force when he refused to eat, causing the little one to cry out in pain. Sarah stifled a sob. "My God, Mike, how did we not see this before?" But the worst was yet to come. In a sequence of images from the living room, they saw Linda putting household items into her bag, a small silver vase, some jewelry left on the table, and even money from Ethan's piggy bank. "She's stealing from us!" exclaimed Michael, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. Bella, who had been watching silently, let out a low meow, as if confirming the discovery. Sarah turned to the cat, tears in her eyes. "You knew all along, didn't you, Bella? That's why you were so protective." As if understanding, Bella approached and rubbed her head against Sarah's hand, purring softly. The couple continued watching, horrified by each new revelation. They saw Linda neglect Ethan for long periods, leaving him to cry while she talked on the phone or watched TV. In one particularly alarming moment, she almost dropped the baby while trying to take a selfie. "Enough," said Sarah, finally closing the laptop. "I can't watch anymore." Michael hugged her, feeling her tremble. "What do we do now?" Sarah pulled away, her eyes shining with determination. "We're going to confront her. We can't let this go on another day." They spent the rest of the weekend planning how to approach Linda. They decided they would confront her on Monday as soon as she arrived for work. Meanwhile, they took turns staying with Ethan, reluctant to leave him alone even for a minute. Bella, for her part, seemed to sense the change in the atmosphere. She stayed even closer to Ethan, as if trying to make up for all the times they hadn't been able to protect him adequately. On Sunday night, after putting Ethan to bed, Sarah and Michael sat on the balcony, contemplating the city lights. "How could we have been so blind?" asked Sarah, her voice laden with guilt. Michael sighed, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "We couldn't have imagined, Sarah. Linda had great references, seemed so caring." "But Bella knew," Sarah murmured. "We should have trusted her from the start." At that moment, as if she had heard her name, Bella appeared on the balcony, jumping onto Sarah's lap. The cat looked at them with her penetrating blue eyes, as if wanting to say everything would be all right. "Tomorrow we'll fix this," said Michael, stroking Bella. "We won't let anything bad happen to our son again." Sarah nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. "I'm worried about her reaction, Mike. What if she tries to do something?" "We'll be prepared," assured Michael. "I already told my brother, remember? He's a police officer and will be on standby if we need him." They spent the rest of the night going over the plan, trying to anticipate all of Linda's possible reactions. Bella remained with them the whole time, like a silent guardian. The next morning, the air was thick with tension. Sarah and Michael had barely slept, alternating between checking on Ethan and mentally rehearsing the confrontation that was about to take place. At 7:25, they heard the sound of the elevator arriving on their floor. They exchanged a tense look. "It's time," said Michael, squeezing Sarah's hand. Bella, sitting near the door, had her ears on alert, as if she too was preparing for what was to come. The sound of the key turning in the lock echoed through the apartment. The door opened, revealing Linda, her usual smile on her face. "Good morning, family," she began cheerfully, but stopped when she saw Sarah and Michael standing in the living room with serious expressions. "Did something happen?" Michael took a step forward, his voice firm. "Linda, we need to talk." Linda's smile faltered for a moment, a shadow of concern crossing her face. "Sure. What about?" Sarah took a deep breath. preparing herself for the confrontation that would change everything. The next words out of her mouth would set off a chain of events none of them could predict. Bella, still sitting near the door, watched attentively, ready to protect her family at any cost. The silence that followed Michael's statement was almost palpable. Linda looked from one to the other, her smile disappearing completely. "Talk? About what?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure, but her voice betrayed a slight tremor. Sarah took a step forward, her eyes fixed on Linda's. "About your behavior with our son and in our home." Linda frowned, feigning confusion. "I don't understand. I've been taking care of Ethan with all the love and dedication." Michael crossed his arms. "We have evidence that shows otherwise, Linda." Linda's face visibly paled. "Evidence? What kind of evidence?" Sarah picked up the laptop from the nearby table and opened it. "We installed cameras, Linda. We saw everything." For a moment, Linda seemed to be in shock. Then her expression changed, a mixture of anger and despair taking over her features. "You had no right," she shouted. "This is an invasion of privacy." Michael remained calm, though his voice was filled with contained emotion. "Our right and duty is to protect our son. And that's exactly what we did." Sarah turned the laptop, showing one of the recorded scenes where Linda was holding Ethan with excessive force. "How do you explain this?" Linda took a step back, as if she had been slapped. I didn't. He was being difficult that day. And this?" Michael advanced to the next video, showing Linda putting objects into her bag. "Explain why you're stealing from us." Linda's face contorted in a mix of fury and desperation. "You don't understand. You have everything, and I have nothing." At that moment, a baby's cry echoed through the apartment. Ethan had woken up, probably scared by the shouting. Bella, who had been observing everything in silence, ran towards the baby's room. Linda, seeing an opportunity, made a move towards Ethan's room. "Let me go see him. I can—" "No!" Sarah blocked her path. "You are never going near my son again." The situation escalated quickly. Linda, realizing she was cornered, started to shout and try to push past Sarah. Michael intervened, holding Linda by the arms. "That's enough, Linda. It's over. The police are already on their way." Hearing the mention of the police, Linda panicked. With a sudden move, she broke free from Michael's grip and ran towards the door. Sarah, acting on instinct, tried to stop her, but Linda pushed her hard, causing her to fall. "Sarah!" shouted Michael, running to help his wife. Taking advantage of the distraction, Linda opened the door and ran down the hallway towards the emergency stairs. Michael helped Sarah to her feet. "Are you okay?" Sarah nodded, massaging the arm she had hit. "Yes, go after her. We can't let her escape." Michael hesitated for a moment, torn between chasing Linda and staying with his family. At that moment, they heard the sound of approaching sirens. "The police are here," he said, relieved. "They'll get her." The couple ran to Ethan's room, where they found Bella lying next to the crib like a faithful guardian. The baby, surprisingly, had stopped crying and was looking curiously at the cat. Sarah picked up Ethan, hugging him tightly. "It's okay now, my love. Mommy and Daddy are here." Michael joined the embrace, enveloping his family. "It's over. We're safe." Minutes later, there was a knock on the door. It was Michael's brother, accompanied by 2 other police officers. "Where is she?" he asked, entering the apartment. Michael quickly explained what had happened. The officers immediately began a search of the building and surrounding area. While giving their statements, Sarah and Michael didn't let Ethan out of their arms for a second. Bella stayed close, her eyes alert to any movement. Hours passed. The police combed the neighborhood, but there was no sign of Linda. She seemed to have disappeared. That night, with Ethan finally asleep and the police having left, Sarah and Michael sat exhausted on the couch. Bella jumped between them, as if offering comfort. "What do we do now?" asked Sarah, her voice filled with worry. Michael sighed, petting Bella absent-mindedly. "I don't know, Sarah, but one thing is certain. We can't let our guard down. Linda is still out there." Sarah nodded, a shiver running down her spine at the thought of the possibilities. "Do you think she might come back? Try to do something." "I don't know," Michael admitted, "but we won't let her terrorize us. We'll reinforce the apartment's security and stay vigilant." That night, neither of them could sleep properly. They took turns checking on Ethan, always finding Bella vigilant next to the crib. In the days that followed, the Almeida family's life was a mix of relief and apprehension. relief at having discovered the truth and protected Ethan, but apprehension about Linda's unknown whereabouts. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of a series of events that would test their strength as a family and reveal even deeper secrets about Linda's past and her true motivations. The weeks following the confrontation with Linda were a whirlwind of emotions for the Smith family. Sarah and Michael took turns staying home with Ethan, reluctant to trust anyone else with their son's care. Bella, for her part, seemed to have taken on the role of full-time guardian, rarely leaving the baby's side. One sunny Saturday afternoon, while Michael played with Ethan on the living room rug, Sarah decided to do a deep clean of the room Linda had used. She hoped the activity might help her process recent events and perhaps find some clue about the former nanny's whereabouts. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" asked Michael, looking up from the puzzle he was assembling with Ethan. Sarah nodded, determined. "I need to do this, Mike, for myself." In the room, Sarah began emptying the drawers, sorting through the few belongings Linda had left behind. It was when she removed the lining of one of the drawers that she found something unexpected, a small black notebook carefully hidden. With slightly trembling hands, Sarah opened the notebook. The first pages were filled with notes about Ethan's routine, feeding times, and diaper changes. But as she progressed, the content changed drastically. "Mike!" called Sarah, her voice a mix of shock and urgency. "You need to see this." Michael ran to the room holding Ethan with Bella at his heels. "What is it? What did you find?" Sarah handed him the notebook, her eyes wide. "This isn't just a diary, these are plans to kidnap Ethan." Michael paled, holding his son tighter. "My God, Sarah, what else does it say?" Flipping through the pages carefully, Sarah read aloud. "There are notes about our routine, details about the building, even about our relatives. She was studying us, Mike, planning everything meticulously." Bella, sitting nearby, let out a low meow as if understanding the gravity of the situation. Michael sat on the bed, stunned. But why? Why would she do this? Sarah continued reading, her expression changing from shock to confusion. "Wait, there's something here about a debt. Large sums of money and a name, Robert Matthews." "Robert Matthews?" repeated Michael, frowning. "Why does that name sound familiar?" Sarah shrugged, equally puzzled. She continued flipping through the notebook until a piece of paper fell out from between the pages. It was an old faded photograph, showing a young woman holding a baby. "Mike, look at this," said Sarah, handing the photo to her husband. "The woman, she looks a bit like Linda, don't you think?" Michael examined the photo closely. "Yes, there's a resemblance, but she looks younger here. And who is this baby?" At that moment, Bella, who had been watching attentively, approached and sniffed the photo, letting out an agitated meow. "What is it, Bella?" asked Sarah, petting the cat. "Do you sense something?" Michael turned the photo over and noticed an inscription on the back. "To Robert, with love. Always yours, Clara." "Clara?" murmured Sarah. "Could this be Linda's mother?" Michael stood up abruptly, still holding Ethan. "Sarah, I think I know why the name Robert Matthews sounded familiar. Remember that financial scandal a few years ago? A businessman who disappeared after being accused of a major fraud scheme." Sarah's eyes widened, the realization dawning on her face. "You think—" "I think we've just gotten involved in something much bigger than we ever imagined," concluded Michael, his voice filled with worry. The couple exchanged tense glances, realizing that the danger they faced was much more complex than they had initially thought. Bella, sensing the charged atmosphere, approached Ethan, as if reaffirming her role as his protector. Sarah picked up the phone, her hands shaking slightly. "We need to talk to your brother. The police need to know about this." Michael nodded, hugging Ethan tighter. "Yes, but we have to be careful. If Linda is involved with dangerous people, we don't know how far this could go." As Sarah dialed her brother-in-law's number, Michael looked out the window, watching the city below. The tranquility of the Saturday afternoon contrasted starkly with the storm of concerns now swirling in his mind. Bella jumped onto the windowsill, her blue eyes fixed on the horizon, as if she too was on alert for any dangers that might be lurking. The cat let out a low meow, almost like a silent promise that, no matter what came, she would be there to protect her family. The discovery of Linda's notebook and the mysterious photograph opened a Pandora's box, revealing that the danger the Smith family faced was much deeper and more complex than they could have ever imagined. Now, they found themselves at the center of a web of secrets, lies, and potential crimes that extended far beyond the walls of their apartment. While waiting for the police to arrive, Sarah and Michael wondered, how far would Linda go to achieve her goals? And who else could be involved in this sinister plot? The answers to these questions promised to lead the family into even more dangerous and unpredictable territory. The police station was buzzing with activity when Sarah and Michael arrived, Ethan safely in his mother's arms and Bella comfortably settled in her carrier. Michael's brother, Detective Andrew Smith, greeted them with a serious expression. "You did the right thing by coming immediately," Andrew said, guiding them to a private room. "What you discovered could be crucial to a much larger case than we imagined." Seated around a table filled with files and photographs, the couple shared everything they had found in Linda's room. Andrew listened attentively, making notes and occasionally exchanging significant looks with his partner, Detective Carla Martinez. "This notebook," Andrew began, flipping through the pages carefully, "could be the key to unraveling a scheme we've been investigating for months." Carla nodded, picking up the photograph Sarah and Michael had found. "Robert Matthews isn't just a fugitive businessman. We suspect he's the head of a criminal organization involved in money laundering, extortion, and child trafficking." Sarah stifled a gasp, hugging Ethan tighter. Michael paled, his hand instinctively seeking his wife's. "And you think Linda—" Michael couldn't finish the sentence. Andrew sighed heavily. "We believe she's part of this organization, yes, but there's more. The woman in the photo, Clara, isn't Linda's mother. It's Linda." The shock was palpable in the room. Sarah looked at the photograph in disbelief. "But how? She looks so young there." "This photo is nearly 20 years old," explained Carla. "Linda Matthews, or rather Clara Matthews, is Robert's wife. They had a child, but the child mysteriously disappeared when he was just 2 years old." Michael frowned, trying to process the information. "So, all this time, Linda was looking for her own child?" Andrew shook his head. "Not exactly. We believe the disappearance of their child was staged. A way to create a noble reason for their criminal activities." "But what does this have to do with Ethan?" asked Sarah, her voice trembling slightly. Carla exchanged a glance with Andrew before responding. "We suspect that Robert's organization is behind a series of kidnappings of children from influential families. The plan would be to use these children for extortion or sell them on the black market for illegal adoptions." The silence that followed was broken only by Bella's soft meow, who seemed to sense the tension in the room. "What do we do now?" asked Michael, his voice filled with concern. Andrew stood up, his posture determined. "First, we need to ensure your safety. We'll place a surveillance team around your building and install an enhanced security system in your apartment." "And what about Linda?" questioned Sarah. "We're tracking all her known movements," replied Carla. "But she's smart and has resources. It will take time, but we'll find her." As they discussed the details of the security plan, Bella began to get restless in her carrier. Sarah let her out, and the cat immediately jumped onto Ethan's lap, as if to reaffirm her role as protector. "You know," said Carla, observing the scene with a soft smile, "never underestimate an animal's instinct. This cat may have saved your son from a terrible fate." Sarah stroked Bella, tears in her eyes. She always knew from day one. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Security teams were dispatched, alarm systems were installed, and emergency protocols were established. When they finally returned to the apartment, it was already night. Exhausted but vigilant, Sarah and Michael took turns caring for Ethan, always with Bella nearby. The cat seemed tireless in her watch, her blue eyes alert to every movement and sound. The next morning, while they were having breakfast, the phone rang. It was Andrew. "We have news," he said, his voice tense. "We intercepted a communication. Linda contacted Robert. They're planning something big, and we believe you might be the target." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. "What can we do?" "For now, continue with your normal routine, but stay alert. We've increased security around you, and there's one more thing." "What?" asked Sarah, holding her breath. "We discovered that Linda has an accomplice, someone close to you. We're investigating, but be cautious. Don't trust anyone except each other." After hanging up the phone, Sarah and Michael exchanged worried glances. The threat, which already seemed terrifying, now took on even darker contours. Who could this accomplice be? A neighbor? A co-worker? A friend? Bella, sitting on the windowsill, let out a soft meow, as if to remind them of her constant and protective presence. At that moment, the Smith family realized they were in the eye of a much larger storm than they had ever imagined. The battle to protect Ethan and unravel the truth behind Linda and Robert's conspiracy was just beginning. As the sun rose over New York, bathing the apartment in a soft light, Sarah, Michael, and Ethan embraced, with Bella joining them. United, they would face whatever fate had in store, trusting in the love that bound them and the unwavering loyalty of their feline guardian. The days that followed were a mixture of tension and constant vigilance for the Smith family. Every unexpected sound, every glance from a stranger on the street seemed laden with potential threat. Sarah and Michael took turns being on alert, always with one eye on Ethan and the other on the shadows that seemed to multiply around them. Bella, for her part, assumed an even more prominent role in the family's protection. Her sharp senses seemed to pick up on things that eluded the humans, and her occasional midnight meows often led Michael to do extra rounds around the apartment. One particularly tense afternoon, while Sarah was working on her laptop in the living room with Ethan playing on the rug under Bella's watchful eye, the phone rang. It was Carla, Andrew's partner. "Sarah, we have news," said Carla, her voice a mix of urgency and caution. "We intercepted another communication between Linda and Robert. They mentioned something about putting the plan into action in the next few days." Sarah felt her heart race. "What exactly are they planning?" "We're not sure yet," admitted Carla, "but we think it might involve a kidnapping attempt. You need to be even more alert." After hanging up, Sarah immediately called Michael, who was at work. "Mike, you need to come home now. Things are getting more serious." While waiting for her husband to arrive, Sarah reinforced all the locks and ensured the alarm system was working perfectly. Bella, sensing her owner's anxiety, didn't leave Ethan's side for a second. Michael arrived in record time, breathless and visibly worried. "What's going on, Sarah?" Sarah updated him on Carla's call. While they discussed their options, the intercom buzzed, making them both jump. "Who is it?" asked Michael cautiously. "Delivery for Mrs. Sarah Smith," responded an unknown voice. The couple exchanged apprehensive looks. They weren't expecting any deliveries. "Don't open it," whispered Sarah. "It could be a trap." Michael agreed, but curiosity and fear consumed them. What if it was something important? What if it was just an innocent delivery? At that moment, Bella began to growl softly, her fur bristling as she stared intently at the door. The cat's unusual behavior was the signal they needed. Michael immediately called Andrew, informing him of the suspicious situation. Within minutes, police cars surrounded the building, and specialized agents stormed the lobby. The supposed delivery man was detained, and a quick investigation revealed he was, in fact, a known associate of Robert Matthews. Inside his package, the police found listening devices and a detailed plan of the Smiths' apartment. "Ah, you were very lucky," said Andrew after the situation was under control. "If you had opened the door..." Sarah hugged Ethan tightly, tears in her eyes. It was Bella. She sensed something was wrong. Andrew looked at the cat with newfound respect. "It seems you have a four-legged guardian angel." In the days that followed, security around the family was doubled. Undercover agents were positioned in the building, and an advanced monitoring system was installed in the apartment. Despite the precautions, the fear persisted. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every stranger a potential enemy. The constant tension began to take its toll on Sarah and Michael, who could barely sleep or focus on their work. One particularly difficult night, with Ethan struggling to sleep, something unexpected happened. Bella, who usually stayed on guard in the baby's room, suddenly ran to the living room, meowing insistently. Michael, intrigued, followed the cat. Bella led him to the bookshelf and began scratching a specific section. Curious, Michael removed some books and, to his astonishment, found a small device hidden behind them. "Sarah," he called, his voice trembling. "I think we found Linda's accomplice." Sarah ran to the living room, holding Ethan. Seeing the device, her face paled. "Is that a microphone?" Michael nodded grimly. "It looks like it. And I bet there are more scattered around the apartment." The realization hit them like a punch. Someone close to them, someone with access to their home, was working with Linda and Robert. But who? A friend? A family member? The list of suspects seemed endless. While Michael called Andrew to report the discovery, Sarah looked at Bella with gratitude and admiration. Once again, the feline intuition had protected the family. The night advanced, and while the police combed the apartment for more devices, the Smith family faced a harsh reality. The net was closing in, and the final battle against Linda and Robert was about to begin. But with Bella by their side and the love that united them, they were determined to protect their son and dismantle the conspiracy that threatened to destroy their family. As the sun began to rise, bringing the promise of a new day, the Smith family prepared to face their greatest fears and challenges. The end of this story was near, and they knew they would need all the courage, cunning, and love they could muster to emerge victorious. The morning dawned grey and heavy, as if the sky itself reflected the tension hanging over the Smith family. Sarah and Michael, exhausted after a night of vigilance, tried to stay calm as they prepared Ethan for another uncertain day. Bella, faithful as always, didn't leave the baby's side, her blue eyes alert to every movement in the house. The discovery of the listening devices the night before had made it clear that the danger was closer than ever. The phone rang, making everyone jump. It was Andrew, his voice urgent on the other end of the line. "We have a solid lead," he said. "Robert was seen at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. We believe Linda is with him. We're mounting an operation to capture them, but..." "But what, Andrew?" pressed Michael, feeling that something was wrong. Andrew hesitated before continuing. "We intercepted another communication. They know we're getting close and plan a final move against you. Today." Sarah felt her heart race. "What do we do?" "We're on our way to take you to a safe location," replied Andrew. "Stay alert and don't open the door for anyone until I get there personally." They had barely hung up the phone when they heard a noise coming from the kitchen. Bella immediately positioned herself in front of Ethan, growling softly. Michael signaled for Sarah to take Ethan and hide in the bedroom while he investigated. With his heart in his throat, he approached the kitchen cautiously, improvising a weapon with a baseball bat. To his surprise and horror, he found a familiar figure rummaging through the drawers. It was Mrs. Thompson, the kindly elderly neighbor who always offered to help with Ethan. "Mrs. Thompson?" exclaimed Michael, incredulous. "What are you doing here?" The elderly woman turned slowly, a sad smile on her wrinkled face. "Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry, dear. I had no choice." At that moment, another familiar voice echoed through the room. "She really didn't have a choice, did she, Mom?" Linda emerged from the shadows, a gun pointed at Michael. "Surprised to see me, Michael? Did you really think you could stop me so easily?" Michael felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. "Mrs. Thompson is your mother. But how?" Linda laughed bitterly. "Oh, the story is long and complicated. Let's just say my dear mother has a debt with Robert, and I'm here to collect." In the bedroom, Sarah listened to the conversation with growing fear. She knew she had to act quickly. With Ethan safe in her arms and Bella by her side, she silently opened the bedroom window. Back in the kitchen, Michael was trying to buy time. "Linda, think about what you're doing. The police are on their way. You have no way out." "There is always a way out, Michael," Linda replied, her eyes glinting with dangerous determination. "And it involves taking Ethan with us." At that moment, Bella appeared in the kitchen, growling fiercely at Linda. The distraction was enough for Michael to make a move, knocking the gun out of Linda's hand. A fierce struggle ensued. Mrs. Thompson screamed, begging for them to stop, while Linda and Michael wrestled on the floor. Bella, displaying incredible bravery, leapt into the fray, scratching and biting Linda whenever she could. In the bedroom, Sarah carefully climbed out the window onto the fire escape, holding Ethan tightly. She could hear the sounds of the struggle inside and prayed that Michael would be all right. She knew she had to get Ethan to safety. As she descended the fire escape, she heard the distant sound of sirens approaching and hoped they would arrive in time. Back in the apartment, the fight between Michael and Linda was intense. Michael managed to pin Linda to the ground, but not before she landed a deep scratch on his arm. Blood trickled down, but Michael's focus remained sharp. He knew he had to keep Linda subdued until the police arrived. Mrs. Thompson, visibly distressed, stood in the corner, her hands trembling. "Please stop this. You're going to get hurt." Michael glanced at her, his voice strained but firm. "Mrs. Thompson, you need to stay out of this. The police are almost here." Just then, the front door burst open, and Detective Andrew Smith, along with several officers, stormed into the apartment. They quickly apprehended Linda, securing her in handcuffs. One of the officers gently guided Mrs. Thompson to a chair, while another attended to Michael's injured arm. "Where's Sarah and Ethan?" Andrew asked urgently. Michael, panting from the exertion, pointed towards the fire escape. "Sarah took Ethan down the fire escape. They should be safe by now." Andrew nodded and immediately sent officers to secure the area around the building. "We'll make sure they get to safety." Meanwhile, Sarah had reached the ground level with Ethan. She heard footsteps approaching and turned to see several police officers running towards her. Relief washed over her as they escorted her and Ethan to a secure police vehicle. Moments later, Michael joined them, his arm bandaged but otherwise unharmed. He embraced Sarah and Ethan tightly, tears of relief streaming down his face. "It's over. They're taking Linda into custody." Sarah nodded, her voice shaky. "I was so scared, Mike, but Bella, she helped us, she knew." Michael looked down at Bella, who had followed Sarah and Ethan down the fire escape. The cat's blue eyes were filled with a mix of determination and calm. "She's our hero." The police officers escorted the family back to their apartment, ensuring that everything was secure. Linda was taken away, and Mrs. Thompson, after giving her statement, was also taken into custody for questioning. Over the next few days, the Smith family began the process of healing and rebuilding their sense of security. The police investigation revealed that Linda and Robert's plan had been much more extensive than initially thought, involving several other families as well. With Linda and Robert in custody, the network of criminal activities they had orchestrated began to unravel. Throughout it all, Bella remained a constant source of comfort and protection. Her unwavering loyalty and keen instincts had undoubtedly saved Ethan and possibly the entire family from a terrible fate. One evening, as the sun set over New York, casting a warm glow through the apartment, Sarah, Michael, and Ethan sat together on the couch. Bella lay contentedly in Sarah's lap, purring softly. "You know," Sarah said, stroking Bella, "we owe so much to her. She sensed the danger long before we did." Michael nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. "She truly is part of our family. We couldn't have made it through this without her." As the days turned into weeks, the Smith family gradually returned to a sense of normalcy. The police continued their investigation, uncovering more details about Linda and Robert's criminal network. The media attention surrounding the case brought a mix of relief and anxiety, but the family remained strong, united by their love and the bond they shared with Bella. One sunny afternoon, as Sarah and Michael played with Ethan in the park, they reflected on the ordeal they had endured. Bella sat nearby, watching over them with her characteristic vigilance. "Can you believe everything we've been through?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with both awe and exhaustion. Michael shook his head, a smile playing on his lips. "It's been a nightmare, but we made it through, and we came out stronger because of it." Sarah nodded, looking down at Bella with affection. "We couldn't have done it without her. She's our guardian angel." As if understanding the sentiment, Bella let out a soft, contented purr. Ethan giggled, reaching out to pet the cat, who nuzzled his hand affectionately. The family spent the rest of the afternoon enjoying the simple pleasures of life, grateful for the peace and safety they had fought so hard to reclaim. The bond between them, strengthened by the trials they had faced, was unbreakable. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Sarah, Michael, and Ethan made their way back home. Bella trotted alongside them, ever watchful, ever protective. That night, as they settled into their evening routine, Sarah and Michael reflected on the journey they had been on. They knew that while the immediate danger had passed, they would always need to remain vigilant. But they also knew that with each other, and with Bella by their side, they could face anything. Lying in bed, with Ethan sleeping peacefully in his crib, and Bella curled up at their feet, Sarah turned to Michael. "I love you," she whispered. Michael smiled, taking her hand in his. "I love you too. And I love our family." As they drifted off to sleep, the Smith family knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by love, courage, and the unwavering loyalty of their feline guardian.